This is WBSM On Demand.
Good morning. Good morning. So, we're counting down now, right? Won't be long before we'll have a real answer. Will you miss the election? I got to be honest with you. As much as I enjoy politics, and the back and forths of campaigns at the local level and all the way up to the national level, I think I am ready for Thanksgiving. I think I'm ready for this to be over. I think it was last week I said, obviously I want Donald Trump to win. I think that's the better choice. But I'd like whoever wins to win decisively. And I would like whatever side loses to accept that. Right? That's what I'd like. That's what I would like. So, I haven't voted yet. I'm going to vote tomorrow. Right on the Tuesday election day, right? I'm going to go vote tomorrow. Many of you have already voted. Me personally, I've never seen, quite frankly, nobody's ever seen a presidential candidate, former president, survive 2 assassination attempts. Now, many of you, if you're longtime listeners, know that I've had my own brushes with death, and it changes you. There's no doubt about it. It changes you. It's really it's eye-opening. It's at least I do. I appreciate my life more than I ever did, because when you're younger, particularly me, you just never really contemplated your own mortality. You just got up and did what you wanted, and that you just never assumed the worst could happen. So I dodged that bullet, just like Donald Trump did, really. He didn't really dodge it, because it did hit him in the ear. That, to me, looked like a miracle. Now, I'm here as a result of a miracle. There's no doubt about that. And I don't know if that gives me any more power to recognize a miracle. But it does give me the ability to accept a miracle, right? To accept that miracles can happen because it happened to me. And I think Donald Trump and America were the beneficiaries of a miracle. So when I go vote tomorrow, I'm not going to mess with the miracle, right? I'm not going to be in full rebellion against the universe. Because not only did he literally survive an assassin's bullet when other people died that day, remember? Other people literally died from snipers' bullets intended for the president, but his one bullet grazed his ear. And then, a few weeks later, the Secret Service intercepted another assassin. So, I don't know what you saw. I know what I saw. I'm not going to mess with the universe, right? I'm just not going to do that. So I'm going to go with the flow, and I'm going to vote for Donald Trump tomorrow. Now, I was likely going to do that anyway, but upon examining all the evidence in front of me and my own life experience, maybe that makes me unique, able to accept a miracle. But I know others of you out there have had the good fortune of having God spare your life. for whatever reason. So I'm voting for Donald Trump. I'm not going to mess with the universe. I'm not going to be in full rebellion against God's will. That's how I see it. That's how I see it. 508-996-0500. That's how you can get on the program. We'll have Leo Choquette coming in the next hour. And then the 11 o'clock hour, we're going to have a recently retired Fairhaven Police Lieutenant, Kevin Kobza. Kevin's a great friend of mine. And I've had him in the program over the years talking about gun licenses and how to get them. And but I'm having Kevin in because, well, it's my show. But I think his story is really interesting. And now that now he's retired. He's still got a relationship with the Fairhaven Police Department, but he's a retired guy. And he's always a professional. But I want to have him talk about his experience being a police officer and why he did it, why he thinks other people should or shouldn't do it. So we'll have Kevin. Everybody loves Kevin. They really do. If you have a problem with Kevin, you've got a problem. That's my thought on this. If you've got a problem with Kevin Kobza, you're wrong. Fix yourself. No, he's a sweetheart, real man, great guy. But Kevin Kobza will be here in the 11 o'clock hour. And he gave a lot of time to this town. I don't think he's done, but who knows? 508-996-0500. What are you doing tomorrow? Don't forget about those down ballot races. Governor's Council. I was thinking about it. Joe Ferreira is probably the only current elected official on our ballot who's ever been a police officer. Tom Hodgson's not there anymore. Tom was a police officer down in Maryland before he was the sheriff, right? But Joe Ferreira is a Democrat, but he's obviously pro-law enforcement, so I think you got to give Joe Ferreira a vote, right? He's a police officer that oversees the courts. So I think that's another thing to vote for tomorrow, right? Show up and appreciate a Democrat that doesn't attack the police, right? There used to be a police officer, chief of police in Somerset, Joe Ferreira. So, and the ballot questions, right? Those ballot questions. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hey, bud. What's going on?
You tell me.
So I was doing a little bit of numbers digging, and when you drive around town in Dartmouth, you see a lot of Ukraine flags. A lot of people are out there supporting the people of Ukraine in their defense of their own country against the Russian aggression.
Okay.
And you hear a lot of them say, Trump is going to cause World War III. Trump is going to dismantle NATO. And I did digging, and some of the digging from NATO's own numbers shows an explosion of investment by individual countries after Trump's rhetorical speech of saying, now, we all know what gaslighting is. Basically, you getting told you didn't hear what you heard something different. And what a lot of the media did with Donald Trump's speech was saying, hey, he said he's going to pull out of NATO and he's going to dismantle the alliance. And you know what? I fell for that. I personally fell for that gaslight until I actually started to dig into the numbers. And the numbers showed that after Trump's speech, where he just basically said, listen, we won't defend individual countries. If we're not going to send American troops to defend you if you're not willing to defend yourself. But Poland will defend you. We'll have no problem defending you because you have been putting into your military a lot. But NATO expenditures increased 30% after Donald Trump's speech in 2018. What it was before then, they were maybe meandering around a 2% increase. So before Donald Trump came into office, the median investment individual countries were doing, they're supposed to be at 2%. It was 1.1. And it exploded to almost 2 by the time he left. So before you start to think Donald Trump is bad for NATO, Donald Trump strengthened NATO. And if you are flying at a Ukrainian flag in support of the people of Ukraine, you need to really consider supporting Donald Trump in this, because he made Europe safer. He made NATO stronger and with its own self-defense. The other thing,
there was a op-ed in the Wall Street Journal over the summer where the British Prime Minister said, without crediting Trump, basically said that now everybody has got their dues up to date, or the increased investment, just as you said, in NATO. And the only thing that changed was Donald Trump forcing people to pay what they owed. Correct.
They're supposed to pay 2% of their GDP. That's what they're supposed to invest 2% of of the country's GDP into their own defense, into their own military, and they weren't doing that. And Donald Trump understood that on a grand scale. So, if you really want to look at who is supporting NATO, it was Donald Trump. And the reality is, if you look further into the future, when Joe Biden and Kamala Harris came into office, it dropped, Chris. It went from 1.86% on a median back down to 1.6. It had a dramatic drop-off when Biden came into office because he knew he wasn't going to enforce what Donald Trump put in place. The only reason why it's up now is literally because of Ukraine. It's literally because they're forced to, because there's a war on their own border. But before that, in 2020, in 2021, in 2022, it went off the cliff. It started to fall off. So if you actually care about a safer Europe, a stronger alliance in NATO, you need to really consider voting for Donald Trump, because results matter, Chris, and not the rhetoric. Results matter. And that's why I turned the cheek and I actually looked at what he did. I looked at the results Donald Trump did in 4 years. And I said, there's no doubt in my mind that he made NATO stronger, even though I believe the gaslighting of the media. He wasn't pulling out of NATO. He just told, whoever, some little country who's barely putting in anything into their expenditure, into their military, we're not going to put American lives in jeopardy if you're not willing to put your own lives in jeopardy if you're ever attacked.
Thanks for the call, my friend. Thanks for the call. I appreciate it, as always. Look, it's like the people who claim that Donald Trump was a Russian agent. All they do when they say that is reveal their own lack of historical understanding of how Russia recruits spies and Donald Trump's own history. I mean, he started out with Roy Cohn as his lawyer. Roy Cohn convicted the Rosenbergs, members of the Communist parties, of being spies for the Soviet Union. Roy Cohn went on to work for Senator McCarthy. He was one lawyer. Bobby Kennedy was the other lawyer for Senator Joe McCarthy. And Roy Cohn maintained a very strong relationship with Ronald Reagan. In fact, Roy Cohn engineered Donald Trump's sister getting on the federal bench, the appointment from President Reagan. So there was nowhere in Donald Trump's life for him to fall into the clutches of the Russians. It's just not how they do business. It's not how they do business. But remember, folks, you likely have already made up your mind. Now, what you haven't probably done is made up your mind whether you're going to go vote, because early voting is closed here now. So you've got to make a plan to go vote tomorrow. Not just because Kamala Harris has really run a good campaign and If you're a Democrat, I think she's earned your vote. Donald Trump survived 2 assassination attempts. I think he's earned your vote. He certainly earned mine. And I remember how great it was when he was in office and now how miserable it is now. So I'd like to make America great again. I would not like to be in full rebellion against God. God has a plan for all of us. We saw it on television when Donald Trump survived the assassination attempt, literally nicked his ear. Right? That was God telling you, I spared this man. And then when the Secret Service rousted the second assassin, right? That was God. My opinion, it was. We're going to take a break. If you're on hold, stay there. I do see you, and I want to speak with you, but I do have to take a break. We'll be right back. Our Hunger Heroes food drop. For the 32nd year, we'll be collecting food to benefit the United Way of Greater New Bedford's Hunger Heroes Project. Join us at Aldi in Dartmouth on Saturday, November 16th from 10 a.m. to noon to donate the necessary Thanksgiving items. You can find all the details at WBSM.com. Hunger Heroes Food Drop is made possible by our friends at Is Schwartz Appliance, First Citizens Federal Credit Union, Carefree Homes, and Aaron Pools and Spa, right? Aaron's Pools and Spa. So if for some reason you're not on the internet and you want to help out, just kind of use your common sense, right? What have you dropped off in the past to help people out with Thanksgiving? Just pick it up at Aldi's or bring it to Aldi's on Saturday, November 16th from 10 a.m. to noon. If you need ideas, visit for all the details at WBSM.com, right? Speaking of hungry heroes, Leo Choquette's coming in at 10 o'clock and just telling the intern, Leo never disappoints. He always shows up with donuts. Sometimes different places. It's always a less hungry hero when Leo Choquette's around with his donuts. So hopefully Leo shows up and doesn't disappoint my interns. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
That's funny.
Hey, thank you for the great gift bag you dropped off here. That was wonderful, Steady.
Oh, you are more than welcome.
Sketty, I mean.
Yeah, no, but I like that candy had the name. I'm like, I think I might change my spelling to that. But no, you're more than welcome, Chris. Everybody, I'm just so happy. I know Ryan was sick, so I don't know if Ken actually took his bag and took Ryan's with him. I don't know.
I can guarantee you somebody did. No, okay. I'm joking. I think it's right there. I can see it.
Yeah, I think he was going to be nice and wait for Ryan not to be, sick anymore. And I hope he gets better. The COVID is back. It's kind of knocking people through a loop. So what I want to talk about, okay. I can't be in depth like most people. I want to hit a few notes here. So I was really worried that I made the wrong vote with the Shane and all, right, endorsing. And I went back in my mind and I visualized how I voted. And I'm like thinking, no, I did not vote for that individual. So I'm happy for that. I voted for Keating. I voted for Dean. And I voted for Julia. And Perez. I wanted to do Pacheco, Joe.
But that's not your district.
Right, exactly. And so when I see that, I'm saying, but I didn't vote because has nothing to do with me. So there was a lot of left blank, right? But I did do 5 no's down the board on all the questions. And the reason why I stayed with the MCAS is because we need, and I really did, I tossed back and forth with this one, but I think we need some way to gauge how well our students are doing. If they're not doing that well, there's summer school. Sorry if that's going to upset parents, but I also, because there's so many foreigners now in our school, I want to know how well they're learning our history, they're learning the math and the English. So this is why, hands down why, I said, yeah, I want the MCAS to stay in place. Because of that. I want to know they're learning. Even if they're going to have a bilingual teacher, I want to know that everybody's pulling out of there, learning, everything that.
Absolutely. I agree with you. And look, I think it is in the interest of the United States of America to teach these people, these children who are in the schools, English, and no matter what the cost. I say that rhetorically, not what the cost. Obviously, you have to figure out the cost, but I think the country suffers when we don't have a unifying language.
Yes, and history. We've got to learn the history. It's so important.
Unfortunately, a lot of the kids are learning history through the Howard Zinn teachings, and that guy was a member of the Communist Party and an absolute traitor to America, Howard Zinn, and he's got the most preferentially used, assigned book in the American school system for history. At least at one point he did.
This is why I love listening to you. You are always so right. You are so smart, Chris.
Thank you.
You read books like nobody's. I know Barry loves to read, but I swear I think you've got everybody beat. Anybody that's ever been around me, and wow. I mean, that says a lot because you know authors. You can name a name and name a book out of just the top of your hat for a conversation. You're so impressive. You really, truly are.
I appreciate that, Sketty. I really do. And kind words will get you everywhere. But I just know when I was in college, they gave me Howard Zinn's A People's History of America, or the United States, however I have it on my bookshelf. In fact, I've gone through it a couple times. I remember reading it and thinking, this doesn't sound right. And I was, this was when I went back to school as an older adult. Anyway, so the Howard Zinn, now back then there was no real internet yet, or if there was, it wasn't as flourishing as it is now. Well, now that he's passed away, you can actually find his FBI file. So all through his FBI file, he was on the list to be arrested in case World War III broke out. He was on the list to be arrested. And he's the book that most kids are learning U.S. history from. Member of the Communist Party. On the FBI's list to be arrested immediately if war broke out.
Wow. That's almost, wow. I didn't even know we still had that kind of mentality.
Well, it was back in the 60s that he was on that list.
Well, that mentality definitely was done in the 60s. Oh, I thought you would that's just why I say you're a wealth of information. I learn a lot listening to you. Now I'm intrigued by this. And of course, now I've got to go find this.
Howard Zinn. Look him up. Howard Zinn. He lived in Massachusetts.
Yeah. Oh, no kidding. Oh, my God. See, Chris, you're just amazing. And hey, when Leo gets on the show,
yes.
The pay and go parking lot now is all about the EV. And it's tall enough where it looks like city equipment will be pulling into that. And I know the mayor bought into the EV for the school buses. I don't know if he did with city equipment, but I just curious. Will you please ask him about that? And then also right across the street now in front of all these people's homes, you can park now in front of their houses. And I feel bad about that. I want to know, is the city, did the mayor, not only with the school buses, but did he buy municipal snowplow, whatever, to park in that space?
I don't know, but I will tell you that the mayor will be here because he had to adjust his schedule. He won't be here Wednesday. He'll be here tomorrow at 10 a.m. So the mayor will be here tomorrow at 10 a.m.
Oh, wait, so I'll call in and ask him. You don't have to. Well, you can ask Leo, too, if you want.
We can ask. We can always ask.
He's my guy. I want him to be the mayor, but I know that's, ridiculous.
You never know. You never know. You never know. Sketty, thank you, my friend, as always. And again, she dropped off bags for everybody here. Went way above Halloween, but really, along the Halloween tradition, but really nice. And we do appreciate that when listeners do that. 508-996-0500. The New England Patriots had the best of both worlds last Sunday. Overtime loss to the Titans. They took a step forward in their development while still remaining in the hunt for a high draft pick to get some help. That's what you call shining a sneaker right here. This week, the Pats head to Chicago to take on the Bears, who may be in the basement in the NFC North, but are still 4-4 on the season. Patriots against the Bears. Kickoff is 1 p.m. with pregame on WBSM beginning at 10 a.m. The New England Patriots all season long right here on WBSM. So we need predictions, folks. How do you predict? And I am interested in how you predict the national election's going to go. But what I really want to know is, how do you think some of these local races are going to go? You've heard from a lot of candidates here on this program. In fact, the only one who really didn't come in, who avoided me, was Mark Sylvia, which is sad. That's pretty sad. He's running for state representative here in Fairhaven, but he ignored all my invitations. I sent them to him multiple on Facebook. And if you do Facebook, you know that Mark is all over Facebook. He's using that as a major way to accumulate votes, right? So I know that he gets his Facebook messengers apps, right? The Facebook messages that I send him, I know he's getting them. And if he's not, that's his fault. That means he's not responsive to the media. That's ridiculous. So anyway, who do you think is going to win in that race? You got Mark Sylvia, the Democrat, goal line to get along, driver's license for illegal aliens and homeless shelters for migrants in Fairhaven, all that stuff. And Joe Pyers, family man, business guy, on the school committee out in the Tri-Town area, Republican candidate, been out about everywhere. He didn't have a big machine behind him, but Joe Pyers, Rochester homeowner, on the Tri-Town School Committee. I think a very good guy. So Joe Pyers is out there. He's running against Mark Sylvia. Then you've got the Senate race. You got Mr. Pacheco, selectman in Rainham. He's the Democrat nominee. Got Jimmy DuPont, who's a conservative, unenrolled, used to be on the Republican State Committee. That guy did more for the Republican Party than most people walking around today with the Republican brand. Jimmy DuPont's a good guy. He's on the Rainham School Committee. Used to be on the Republican State Committee for decades, really. Actually gathered signatures for Prop 2.5. And then you've got Kelly Dooner, who's the Republican nominee. She's the on the Taunton City Council. And Kelly's a Republican nominee. Who's going to win that race? Pacheco, Dooner, or DuPont? That's a very interesting state Senate race. Then, of course, the race has been featured here quite a bit, just because all the candidates have been willing to do it. Democrat Steve Ouellette, selectman in Westport, running for the state representative seat that's now vacant, right? He's joined in that race with a selectman colleague, Manny Soers, who was in here the other day. Another person in that race is Jesse St. Gelais. Jesse's been advertising here since the spring. His family's insurance agency is also a sponsor. And you have Chris Thrasher, who's on the school committee in Westport, and he got the Republican nomination. And the Republicans have been spending a lot of money in that race, actually. So here on this radio station, and we appreciate that. And you have a woman named Thatcher? No, Hadley. A woman named Hadley from Westport is running for the state rep seat. Who do we think is going to win out there? Jesse St. Gelais, Chris Thrasher, Steve Ouellette, Manny Soers. That is a big district, right? That's part of Acushnet, part of Freetown, all of Westport, part of New Bedford, and part of Fall River. That's what you call a gerrymandered district, if ever there was one. Gerrymandered district. I can report to you now that Chris Hendricks will be reelected. Senator Montigny will be reelected. Senator Rodrick will be reelected. Representative Chris Markey will be reelected. Representative Tony Cabral will be reelected. Those guys have no opponents. So, 508-9960. Anyone want to make predictions? It's a dangerous business. Oh, and by the way, I think John Deaton is going to do a lot better against Elizabeth Warren than most people let on that he's going to. I'm not saying he's going to topple her, but I think the voters of Massachusetts are going to send a major message. They'd rather have a Marine who wants to get things done than a talented college professor in Liz Warren who just is a partisan warrior. I mean, that's what's happened to her since she lost the presidency. So I think John Dean's going to do a lot better than people think, based on the Republican and Democrat enrollment and past election returns, right? So I think John Dean, who's a U.S. Marine and an attorney in his own right, is going to do pretty well tomorrow. But we'll know in a few short hours, right? Stick around. We'll be right back. Won't be long, right? We'll know. Hopefully we'll know. As I said, whoever wins, be it Kamala Harris, the vice president, or former President Donald Trump, I hope it's a decisive win, and I hope it's so conclusive that the other side, no matter who it is, just agrees to work with the opposing party, the victor, for the better of the country. Now, doesn't mean you have to give up your principles, right? Doesn't mean that Donald Trump has to support open borders or that the Democrats have to support more walls, although walls do work. I guess they've kind of finally admitted that. But the fact of the matter is that we agree on more things than we disagree. Now, maybe that's not a great thing to say for talk radio, but we agree on more things than we disagree. Remember, guys, you got energized about the increase in the auto excise tax, right? The auto excise tax, the governor wanted to break the 2.5 bylaws, right? Break the spirit of 2.5 and the law and increase the auto excise tax. We worked as a team. I told you about it. You called your legislators. We got Democrats to agree with us. Senator Mark Montigny said no to increasing the auto excise tax and a couple of the other taxes that she was looking at. Chris Markey as well, Senator Rodrick, Chris Hendricks. These are liberal Democrats. They're not lefties, but they're liberal Democrats. And there was no increase in the auto excise tax. So if you pay attention, and I do it for you, but I know that many of you appreciate when I bring you new and important news. So you can call your legislators and tell them what you want them to do. Doesn't mean they're always going to do it, but as long as we agree on some common sense stuff, I think we can generally bring our legislators in line with us. I mean, after all, those guys all pay auto excise tax. They all pay property taxes. So, and I don't think we'll have any difference. Well, I'm not really sure about Fairhaven, to tell you the truth, because Bill Strauss, who was the mentor for Mark Sylvia, he was all in on, he's actually the architect of driver's licenses for illegal aliens. And I'm quite sure that Bill Strauss is the reason there was a refugee camp in Fairhaven. We don't hear much about that anymore, but do you remember, it wasn't that long ago, there was a refugee camp right here in Fairhaven. That was because Bill Strauss said to the governor she could do it. He gave up no resistance. In fact, he probably drew him a map to get there. So just think about that. $508-996-0500. I'm just curious. Does anybody have any predictions about what's going to happen tomorrow? I mean, I'm happy to go on and on about it, but I'm just wondering if anybody out there has any predictions. Do you think Kamala Harris is going to become the president? It's entirely possible. You know that. And does she draft our own John Mitchell? Does she take John to Washington? That would be very interesting, right? And remember, there is no succession plan. If John was to leave in January, there is no succession plan in place. Which is why whoever's going to get elected city council president in January is very important. That is a very important vote. In other words, this is not just happening in a vacuum, right? Kamala Harris gets elected. We could have an entirely new mayor. We could have a new governor. I mean, it's really an incredible, or all could say the same. It all could say the same, too. We don't know. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Hello.
You're on the air.
Hi, Chris. Thanks for taking my call.
You're welcome.
Just if I could about the 10th Bristol representative race.
Yes.
You know, it's time that we send a message to Beacon Hill. You know, we've had a Democrat up there for 30 years, and it's the same old. You know, is unlimited spending. I think we've spent over $2 billion on illegal immigration, housing and clothing and feeding the illegal immigrants, and yet our veterans and our homeless population, that we still have people living on the street and people that are challenged to get food. Our inflation is through the roof. You know, the younger generation, we feel so bad for the kids coming up trying to buy a house, first-time home buyers.
Oh, yeah.
The rates to buy the home prices are ridiculous. Rent is crazy. Just to rent a 1 or 2 bedroom apartment is off the chains. You know, we've got an opportunity. This is probably our best opportunity. Well, it is our best opportunity in 30 years.
Yep.
To send a message to Beacon Hill to vote for Joe Pyers, somebody that's got common sense. He's a private business owner. He knows what it's like to own a business. He understands what inflation is all about. You know, he's a product of immigrant parents that went through the system properly. There's such an opportunity for us in this race to send the message. You know, to not vote for Joe Pyers right now is going to be a chance missed. I think we're going to regret.
I'm with you, my friend. Thanks for the call. Look, that's how I intend to vote. I think Natalie's going to go with Mark. She likes Mark, and she's not as ideological or as, you know, pays as much attention as I do. That's a curse on me. But I'll be voting for Joe Pyers tomorrow when I vote. Stick around. If you're on hold, I'm going to take your call, but I got to take a break. We'll be right back. Rickrolled my audience. I'm sorry. I should have more loyalty than that, but I rickrolled you, and I'm sorry about it. I'm not really sorry I did that to you, really. The program is sponsored by Mac Auto Sales, 188 Rivet Street, New Bedford. They repair all makes and models. So if you need to get your car ready for the coming winter, and I'm sure you do, give Mac Auto Sales and Repair a call. 508-565-6221. They're open weekdays 9 to 5 for your convenience. They specialize in servicing foreign cars. So if you have one that needs repair, a foreign car, call Mac Auto Sales. Ask about their aftermarket accessories and their quality used cars that they have for sale. Let's go back to the phones. Good morning. Thanks for holding.
Morning, McCarthy. How are you?
I'm not bad. How are you, my friend?
I'm hopeful. I'm hopeful for the country, not so much for Massachusetts. My prediction, Trump gets the country. Massachusetts goes the other way. But locally, the most important vote I have is 10th Bristol. I'm voting for Joe Pyers. I met him. I like him. I wish his opponent was more associated with his CEC, Undersecretary of Energy in the Patrick administration. That's going to hurt all of us, and he's going to continue if he's elected. And then just one last point. I looked at the financing. Sylvia's 3-1 against Joe on spending and raising. So I don't like that, but I'm holding out hope for Joe Pyers to finally get a little bit of more representation or evenness in the state legislature.
Look, I think Joe has given a yeoman's effort. He did a great job. He's done a great job on the school committee. Like a caller before said, he's a family man, business owner. If we continue voting the way we have, they're going to empty the treasury. I mean, it's ridiculous.
Yeah, and watch out for your electric rates.
Yes.
This is tough. So, yeah, everybody get out there, vote. Let's do the right thing for once, please.
Thank you, my friend, as always. 508-996-0500. We have Andrew Saunders in a couple months ago now talking about local aid from the state, that we need more of it. Just send another supermajority Democrat up there. They're just going to go along to get along because the governor and the legislature's priority is to give the money to illegal aliens to keep them here in Massachusetts so that it'll impact the census, right? You know that people are leaving Massachusetts. In fact,